And welcome to another episode of the Motor City Metrics podcast here on Thursday night. As the college football playoffs are coming down or winding down a little bit with the semifinals and Notre Dame kicking Georgia in the face, which I did not see coming, and Ohio State taking care of Oregon. So it's just been sports-wise, this is kind of a weird time of year, but the playoffs now extended till, I believe, till January 20th, till the national championship actually played. And then Jaden Ivey with an unfortunate leg injury. He's out with a broken fibula. So taking advantage of a kind of somewhat in the middle of with the NFL playoffs coming out or NFL playoffs just around the corner, just taking advantage of some downtime. And joining us today, of course, there's Yooper and Griff joins us. And Griff, just as good to see you here again. Chris is at a movie. Mike is out sick. So we're getting some young blood in here, and so good to see you again, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I always love talking Tigers baseball. So
yeah, and there's plenty of discussion to have. So the 5 years, whether it's 5 or 6 years for Alex Bregman for the Tigers, and I wanted to start with a couple things that were reported on today, and this is the reason why I was talking about this time of year, is because you know what? That's a good question, Corey. I'm not sure what movie Chris went to go see. If it's something probably with a, more likely something with his kid. So I'm assuming maybe, I don't know, maybe he did go see the Bob Dylan movie. It wouldn't be a bad idea either. Mm-hmm. Nosferatu. Well, that'd be interesting. But Sam is a fan of your hat, by the way. So yeah, it is the classic, Matt with it better be Sonic 3. Probably Sonic 3. You know what, man? I totally forgot about that movie being out. But let's get to business here. And so we posted this earlier on the on Tiger Miner Report. And that is Ken Rosenthal doesn't expect the Tigers to spend on Alex Bregman. And so that kind of sparked a kind of debate on Twitter a little bit. And here's what he said.
Ken, let's go back to Alex Bregman for a moment. Why do you think Bregman's a better fit? You had mentioned the right-handed bat, of course. Why a better fit for Boston versus the Tigers?
Oh, he's a great fit for the Tigers. And I just don't expect the Tigers to spend. Okay. And Scott Harris, since he has taken over as GM, I believe his biggest contract for a free agent is $24 million, something like that. It's low. And the signings that they've had so far, both 1 year, $15 million, Alex Cobb and Gleyber Torres. Now, it makes sense to me that they would go big for an Alex Bregman right now. And I know they've got young players coming. They've got Young's younger brother, Jace Young, coming at third base. But Alex Bregman is an established player. And if you add talent, then you have a surplus of talent and you can trade talent for other needs. That shouldn't be something that's prohibitive to the Tigers. But their owner, Chris Ilitch, who is the son of Mike Ilitch, does not operate the way Mike Ilitch once did. Mike Ilitch spent. He spent big. It's almost comparable to the Yankees with Hal Steinbrenner versus George Steinbrenner. And Scott Harris seems to be the right kind of head of baseball operations for such an owner because he wants to keep those paths open for younger players. Now, they just blocked Torkelson a little bit, but Torkelson hasn't produced. So they're going to play Colt Keith at first, Gleyber Torres at second. Torkelson is in kind of no man's land. But some of these other young players, they want to keep the paths clear and they want to keep building. To me, you sign an Alex Bregman, it kind of stabilizes the whole thing. I just don't expect them to do that. I've been surprised before. I just don't see it based on their previous act.
Okay, well, there's a couple things. So, Griff, I'll let you go ahead and start things off with this. First question to you. Again, love Ken Rosenthal, does a great job. Fair Territory is a podcast that's on a regular basis here. Who's blocking Torkelson? Did I miss something there with that?
I don't know. I would assume the move to first for Keith, everybody just assumes means Torque is being traded like tomorrow, which, Scott Harris has been pretty clear. He's going to get a role as a DH and platoon at first. So, I mean, I'm sure that's where his head's at on that.
Not to interrupt you, but I think the answer to that is Torkelson has blocked Torkelson. Right?
Oh, yeah, that too.
And I love Spencer Torkelson. I root for him. I desperately want him to be good the whole way. So, but we got to face facts, right? He's blocked himself by lack of production. So I see where Rosenthal's going, but that was just not not the best part of his comments.
Sorry, I was gonna say what I've noticed is that it seems like fan bases, like other fan bases besides the Tigers, seem to be higher on Torkelson than the Tigers at this point. After they, announced they were going to move Keith to first, all these other fan bases like the Mariners coming out wanting to take a flyer on him, and we're all just like, get rid of him.
Yeah, and look, Torkelson. The thing about Spencer Torkelson is that Chris. I know Chris has been one of the most outspoken critics about his play. Whether he makes the changes or not in Toledo, when he was down in Toledo, that was always debated because there was the swing mechanics changes, and there's very, very subtle if at best. But Ken Rosenthal is basically using common sense and logic. He's right. The Tigers have not spent at all. I mean, outside of it was Maeda's the first guaranteed contract past a year in quite some time. He was a 2-year deal. So I think right now it's just a sense of, okay, well, behavior would dictate that. So then you go and later on that day, you have Robert Murray of Fansided, who basically has said that the Tigers are the only team in play for him. So it's interesting, but then but then you have Cody Saberhagen. Cody knows, and I talk to Cody every once in a while, and he knows his stuff. So it's just so back and forth, and so people are checking Twitter constantly, and then you have so you're not really sure what is what, and at this point you just want to get the signing over with right now, and that's all it is to it. I just think that right now it's just I think the one thing that is certain that if you do sign, the Tigers do sign Alex Bregman, it gives them a veteran presence. It gives them a right-handed bat. I don't have a problem with it whatsoever. There's some people think they're a 3-year deal, 4-year deal. Yooper, I'll start with you. What is a fair deal to you for Alex Bregman?
Well, certainly if you want to fair both ways, 5 is fair, right? I mean, I think I would have no issues at all there. At his age, once you get into year 6 and year 7, you kind of know there's diminishing returns lurking anytime, right? But the flip side is he's been a productive player on a championship team, a team that's been to the playoffs many times, and he's been a big part of why. He's known as a leader. All that other all those things on the margins that help you. So if it takes a 6th year to get him, you have to think that right now, the way Scott Harris, the way we think he thinks, which we don't really know, they're not going to be adding big name free agents every year, right? I mean, Javi Baez was an Al Avila signing. If they make the big move to get Bregman, it's probably not going to be followed up with another big spending move next year, if just playing the odds. So I think they can afford it. There's no question. The Ilitch family can make this move if they decide to make this move, and really cost be damned. I mean, it's just up to them. It's just, is Chris Ilitch a businessman, or is he a sportsman like his father was? And I think that's kind of the difference. I think at the end of his days, Mike Ilitch became more of a sportsman than a businessman, and he made decisions based on on what's best for the baseball team on the field.
What about you? I mean, Griff, what do you see this? I mean, you provide a little different perspective because the fact that you only, of course, you've been around the mic too, but different now with Chris Elliott of that fight. At this point, really diving.
You cut out a little bit there, Rod.
Yeah, I lost you towards the end.
I was saying, sorry, the big difference in the Chris Ilitch versus the Mike Ilitch era. I mean, what do you see the same thing that Yooper does?
Yeah, I mean, so for me, what made me fall in love with baseball was the 2006 to 2014 era Tigers. So I got to kind of witness Mike Ilitch in his prime as an owner. And I don't know if, honestly, in the grand scheme of owning a team, if we've seen enough of Chris Ilitch to make a firm decision that he's much cheaper than his dad. Because if we went by the length of time that Chris is on the team compared to Mike didn't spend that much in that same time frame initially. So I don't know. I do think he is trying to be cheaper than his dad. And I think this Bregman signing is going to be indicative of his, plan going forward.
Yeah, it's the thing is that, look, so Stan wants us to acknowledge Miggy's last 7 years. I think it would be more than 5, but I digress on that. Again, 9 times out of 10, I'm still paying that contract because it's Miguel Cabrera, the first player to hit a triple crown since Carl Yastrzemski in 1967. I mean, I honestly, like, I get tired of I'm not gonna lie, I get tired of the Miggy contract. That was what the market was at the time. Same thing. That's what it was. You pay the man. You pay the man on his past. Yes, it is an inherent risk. It is an inherent risk, but it is not your money. A, it's not your money. It's team's money. And B, if you're going to be competitive, and Stan, please do not take this personally or just anything in general with this, but if you're going to be competitive, you got to spend a little bit. Be that as it may, spend smartly. The Tigers have been avoiding the big contracts in the last 5 or 6 years, have not spent a lot of money at all. I mean, the Javier Baez deal aside, the Tigers have been somewhat fiscally responsible, again, because of the Miguel Cabrera contract. But there's other ways to get better, and the Tigers are doing that now by developing players, a trait that they've not had. I mean, really, realistically, if you really think about it, in the last 30 to 40 years, since the 84 Tigers, if you want to get realistic about this, think about this for a second. The 06 Tigers had a couple guys, Curtis Granderson, Justin Verlander. There were a couple homegrown guys, Joe Samaya, Brandon Inge, but the rest of it was free agency. You had Maglio Ordonez. That was the big contract. That was the big 5-year deal that came along. Carlos Guillen, who they got in a trade.
Pudge.
It was Pudge. It was smart trades and free agents. So, I'm never going to apologize. To me, that contract was worth the weight in gold. And I want to get to a question that Barrett had here earlier about Colt Keith. Can Colt Keith get that first base numbers? What do you expect? The 25, 30 home runs numbers. I think he's capable of that. He's a very good hitter and hit for power. He hit for power in the minors. So I think that's totally feasible to go along with if they decide if Torkelson's even here. Like if you look at what he said about Torkelson, he's got to play his way out of the team. So I don't know. It's just the whole thing right now is that the it is seriously the Alex Bregman sweepstakes, which kind of leads me to my next point I want to talk about with Toronto, with the next rumors. Well, we'll get to Toronto in a second. The Anthony Santander rumors about the Tigers are interested in him. Now, I'll start with you, Griff. Are you interested in this right field only slugging? Basically just limited the right field.
Yeah, no. I've been pretty against that as an idea for pretty much the entire time. I mean, because the only part of his game that we're banking on with him coming is that the power is going to translate and he's going to hit 30-plus home runs. But if that dips and he regresses at all, he's a low on-base percentage guy. He's not really good defensively, so he's basically a DH. I mean, unless he's hitting 30-plus home runs, he's going to be an average bat at best, and then you've overpaid on a contract. So,
Yooper.
Well, I mean, you're hoping, right? If you make that signing, if you go with him, you're hoping you're getting a poor man's switch hitting Nelson Cruz, right? I mean, that's what if that's it would be the best thing that could happen. That he ages well and through his 30s, and his power numbers remain pretty constant. Last year, let's face it, 71 extra base hits. That looks good. That plays in any lineup, right? I mean, if you got a guy who can get 71 extra base hits, there's something to be said there that he's going to be productive. I was surprised that he's really only played like 8 games in his career worth of innings at first base. So, yeah, as you're right, he's a right fielder, DH. That's it. So with the outfielders they have in place already, how does that move everybody around? If you assume no Bregman, I mean, you put Vierling at third a lot. Carpenter is probably DHing a lot, and certainly back to platooning. I mean, we'll never find out if he can hit left-handers at this pace, right? Assuming Meadows keeps playing well, and Riley Green. So I think there's a way to fit him in. I think Griff is right though. If his bat slows at all in year 2 or year 3 of a deal, then you got a guy who's hitting, 218 with an on base or barely, in the 290s, with instead of great power, maybe just solid power, and all of a sudden that's not a very productive guy. I think in year 1, I mean, you just look at what he did last year. You can at least assume probably you get big production in year 1. If you think this is a year to take the next step to the playoffs, okay. I mean, I can understand the move. They need right-handed power, as we know. If you look at his career numbers, they're better from the right side, but last year they were better from the left side. So who knows where that's going to go? But certainly they need that right-handed power, and he might be able to be the answer with that.
I think that the bigger need right now is getting more bullpen help and getting guys that can get some swing and miss stuff. I mean, the Kirby Yates, somebody mentioned in the chat, I like that idea a lot. It's really, I think the Tigers really need to continue to build on pitching. I mean, I think that I know that Sky Harris has said they're done for now, or they're done building out the rotation, but I think it's Bregman, and then you continue to build, whether it's through trade or what have you. And I think that the next domino to fall here is if they do sign Bregman, what goes next? Then do they go out and get another reliever, an outfielder? But I like what Keith said right here. You don't. He points this out here. He says that you don't plan on signing Bregman. They cut Spencer Torkelson. I guarantee you they're signing him because you don't make the Gerber signing. Labor signing without getting a third baseman. And I think he's correct. I mean, you look at it this way: Keith, Malloy, potentially Torque at first. They're going to still give him at bats to Malloy somehow, some way. So to me, I think the flexibility that they could trade Torkelson for whatever help. And there was a suggestion too. Somebody said, there's been so many trade offers out there for Torkelson. For example, if the Mets don't sign Alonso, the Mets could go for a trade. The Giants for somebody mentioned this in the chat. I think I'm trying to remember who said this here. Where does it go through here? Oh yeah, Matt Wood said Torkelson and reliever for Lamont Wade Jr. and Duvall. Yooper, go ahead.
I mean, I'm not going to say any trades are silly because it's fun. I love making fake trades. Okay, that's the best part of the offseason. So go for it, right? But here's the thing: Spencer Torkelson, for the struggle that he's had roughly 1,400 plate appearances in the big leagues, and we all know the problems. We don't have to go over them bit by bit again. At the same time, he hit 31 home runs in a major league season, and a lot of them in one half of one season. So we know there's talent there. I'm not trading him for 15 cents on the dollar right now. They have an option left. He can park his ass in Toledo all year and try to figure it out. If he doesn't like it, that's tough. That's how the business is structured in MLB. Okay, they got him. I'm going to see if he can bring if he wants to save his career. Does he want it? And if he does, I want him to do it in Detroit. So the idea of trading him, I mean, obviously, if there's a great deal out there, go, and that's fine. I just don't think you're going to get one. I don't think he has any value right now to get a trade where you say, oh yeah, that was pretty good.
Griff, what about you?
Honestly, I agree. I don't think Torque has any value right now. I'd be more open to trading Jace Young. That's where I want to sign Bregman, because I think with McGonigal on the way, that opens the door to trade Young, because you've got a second baseman right there. You really don't need Jace Young, and he's a top 100 prospect right now. He's probably at the peak of his value unless he really does break out. So I think that's where I would look to go.
Yeah, and that's you know what McGonigal. You also have Hayuli as well, and the Tigers have for the first time in quite some time a surplus of good infield prospects. I mean, Kevin McGonigal is probably one of the best players the Tigers have had. It's in the infield with that kind of caliber of talent of eye at the plate that I've seen in the system in a long time. I mean, you're talking about a guy who could potentially play shortstop. I think personally his long-term future is at second, but I mean, I think him and Max Clark won 1A after Jackson Jobe. It really it is. Chris and I have talked about this for a top 30 that we're working on. I already did mine. I really want to give the nod to McGonigal, but it's like tomato. It's like him and Max Clark both are just like that good. So it's like crap. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's just that's what makes it kind of frustrating.
And I can see the trade idea of trading Jace Young as well, because you would think people know he was a little bit banged up at the end, who saw him in the big leagues, the scouts and so on. They know what he's capable of. He still has some cachet, prospect wise. That's an idea where you can make a trade for something good that fills a need that you have. And again, it's not a 20 cents on the dollar trade.
Ryan Helsley, maybe. 1 year of Ryan Helsley.
Sure, as part of the move to Ryan Helsley, yeah. I'm sure they'd have to put in more, but yeah, no question.
Yeah. I mean, here's another thing, too, that's interesting that involves Jace Young, because I know, or even with Torkelson, the Mariners and Cardinals have been ultra quiet. The Mariners usually by now are just like wheeling and dealing, and St. Louis is in the process of a rebuild, and they're going to tear everything down now that Bloom has taken over. And here we are, we're, I think, 41 days from spring training starts, and the Cardinals haven't done jack, nothing. So is this because of what's going on with the Tigers? If there's something that works with that, Arenado's not coming here because the Tigers are on his list to not to be traded to, and clearly he's not going to waive. If he was waived, I think that would have deal been done by now anyway, if that was the case. But either way. The Josh is saying in the chat these conversations, these Bregman conversations, are good for his anxiety. I think they're ready for anybody's, and I do like to see I like what Cam said here. I understand the Torkelson situation, but it makes me sad. I want to see some torque bombs.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and again, it's not that. It's just you look at how the organizations treated them. And look how, again, if you're gonna go, Cole Keefe is our guy at first base. I mean, if you're Torkelson right now, you're just sitting there going, So, so I want to talk about Toronto real quick here, and so let me ask you guys. I'm going to ask everybody in the group chat too as well. And Griff, I'll start with you. Does it seem that the media has portrayed Toronto as being really desperate? I mean, there's a story in MLB Trade Rumors that they made an offer for Torres, and they're basically going after all these guys, including Corbin Burns. But of course, Arizona, good tax break. I mean, you look at again. I feel like I know more about Canadian taxes than I ever had in my life. I don't know. It just seemed or is it to you that Toronto seems desperate?
I think they are desperate. I think they want to convince Vladdy to stay. And the only way they're going to do that is by making some signings and staying relevant. But I do think the tax situation up there, which I didn't know much about until this whole thing, but it sounds like, it is steering people away. It certainly steered Burns away. I mean, that's why he went to Arizona. It was close to home, but these guys care about that stuff. And, that's going to be the hardest you get hit is there and like San Francisco area. So
what about you, Yooper?
Yeah, I think that they are married to the idea of trying to get Vlad Guerrero Jr. signed long-term. I'm sure they're still mystified with about Bichette and where his career is going. But I got to believe they think there's a way to turn that around. So they need to add some talent. I don't think they're looking to rebuild. I think they have Vladdy and Bichette on hand, and they want to add to what they have and try to make a playoff run. So they are throwing money at some people, but they're not getting any yeses. And it's interesting. They don't have a great farm system. So they probably can't make any trades to change their trajectory, at least not many. And it's really down to free agency for that team. And they've struck out so far. So maybe they will add that sixth year and that extra few million on Bregman and see if money talks.
Yeah, I mean, it is one of those things where, again, the idea that Toronto would get, if they got Bregman, would that solve their problems anyways? And I don't think so. I mean, I think the Bregman solves more of the Tigers' problems than the Blue Jays' problems. As far as Young last year in terms of AAA OPS, I'm just gonna leave that alone. He came up, didn't hit the same kind of power that Keith did. Keith hit for more power in the minors than Young did. Well, they're both about the same in 2023. Again, injuries aside. So one could play third base. Keith couldn't play third base. Young could play second. They both could play second base. That's fine. But it is the I think the tax in Ontario, correct me if I'm wrong, Samuel, is 13%. They have Providence taxes, which is something that blows my mind too. It's like, and then Quebec is 26%. So if you live in, I mean, this explains why the Expos are not around. Well, there's other reasons why the Expos are not around, but no, it just seems like every story headline is just Toronto's missing on every player, and I'm not sure if it's just a matter of it's just the way it really is, or Toronto is. I don't know. It to me, I like a couple of players in their system. They got Charles McAdoo from Pittsburgh. And he's a guy who hit really well in Double-A, and I think he's got a decent future ahead of him too. So, yeah. So Samuel lives in Quebec, and so he can attest to those taxes. But again, you also have pretty much free college and free healthcare. So I guess there's a payoff for that. But no, it's Toronto is a favor for Santander, and that's fine. I mean, if Toronto wants to go for him, by all means.
Roger, when we were talking about Santander, what is your overall opinion how he fits the Tigers? Did I miss that? I'm sorry if I did.
No, I didn't. I don't think he fits the Tigers.
Okay.
I don't think he does, only because I feel that. I mean, yes and no, but I mean, if it depends on the deal. If it's like a 2-year deal, a 3-year deal, I think it's no more than 3-year deal. But the reason why I don't think he fits him, because defensively he's kind of a liability. And the Tigers pride themselves, and AJ Hinch has pride themselves on good team defense. Now, because you really have Winfield Perez, Winfield can play the outfield and play the outfield pretty well. You're not going to see him in the infield anymore. They're set in the outfield. So there's no reason to bring him aboard. And that takes away bats from those, as Harris has said, earmark those at bats for the younger players. So that's why I don't think he,
So you're seeing Carpenter DHing a lot?
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, and Carpenter's a lot better in the outfield than give him credit for. I mean, he's gotten better. His arm is a little better, but I think for the sake of his health, he's got it was a bad back, right? It was a back injury he had. Yeah. So I think they'll find at bats for Perez. I think they'll find at bats for Carpenter. But if you bring Anthony in, it would just defeat the purpose to me. So, but here's another idea here from Keith here. I should believe they're after a third baseman. So then is there a possibility to go after a trade for Bo Bichette or Alex Bowman or Bohm from the Phillies? Now, I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I mean, the cool thing was I don't know. Alec Bohm is a decent player, right? I mean, but is he a great player? He's maybe a 15 to 20 homer guy, unless he breaks out. But he's 26 at least right now, right? And when's that breakout coming? But he's a nice player, and I mean he'd be an improvement. Bichette, I mean, now you have a high ceiling but unfortunately a low floor to consider with him, right? He's coming off a bad year. He's been great in the past. What are you getting? I mean, I don't know. I think I just assume build with my own young guys on that one.
Yeah, somebody in the chat said it, but I kind of agree. Like, Alec Boehm is basically similar player to Matt Vierling, 15 to 20 home run power, average third base defense. Like, you're not going to get a whole lot more out of him than you would by just sticking Vierling there full time. And if you stick Vierling there full time, that opens up space for Wenzel to get more time in the outfield. So, there's options. I just think Bregman is about as perfect of a fit of a free agent you could possibly ask for, and missing out on him is a big mistake. It's rare that something lines up this perfectly for both the player and the team.
Agreed on that. And so as far as Alex Boehm goes, the Tigers are really not interested in him. I've heard some things that they talk about the makeup there. Stan, what you said is in there is correct.
Yeah.
I also heard as well that he kind of struggles. When he struggles, he kind of gets a little
Mopey.
Mopey. So I don't know. Like there's, and I like the fact that Ty Cobb said he respectfully disagrees. He'd be good. Santander would be a good plan B. He would be a permanent DH, and Carpenter is in right. That's fair. I just think that Perez is a slightly better outfield choice than in right.
But as he brings up though, if he's a DH, let's move back and say, he becomes the DH. Okay, now you got a guy who's going to hit about, in a good year, hit 235, 240, get on base about 310, more or less. And last year, 71 extra base hits. I know I'm probably going to say that number 18 more times tonight. That's a hell of a lot of extra base hits. Okay, especially for a right-handed power, which we've been begging for this club for a long time. So I would find the Santander signing, to me, is a C+ B- move, which is good. If C is average, that's a good move. Bregman, I have more of a B+ move. So I would like to see that. But if they come down the pike with a Anthony Santander signing, you can see how they could possibly make it work. I just wouldn't be my first move.
I think if they don't get Bregman, I would rather them pivot to Ha-Seong Kim, than Santander. Just in terms of fit, I think it makes more sense. Even though he'll miss part of the year, I just think once he's healthy, he adds a lot on both sides of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
So
I like that idea. It would be. I know he's been. I think I saw I think Seattle is interested in him too, and Kim. So that would make sense for Seattle as well. In terms of even the Pete Alonso sweepstakes too, the Angels have been reported to be interested in him. So I think that's another card. That's another big domino that's going to fall here too, outside of Bregman. A player that's out there that's still we haven't heard a lot of that was tied to Tigers that could come back to Tigers is Jack Flaherty. Yeah. I know I haven't heard any rumors about him coming anywhere either. So that's been interesting development. Also, I know that Jeff Hoffman wants some big money too, the reliever from the Phillies. So those are kind of developments that kind of affect the Tigers too. So
have you heard much about Tanner Scott?
I've been hearing Braves rumors. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like that guy. I watched him pitch half a dozen times last year. He's electric when he's right. I mean, that would be the kind of guy who could miss bats for the Tigers.
Yeah, I like that idea too. Dan, here's a good one too against he's talking about Randall Grichuk against lefties, and he has struggled against lefties. And then Josh was saying here about ML sign Kim has to be signed or he'll be unposted. So the bridge to Spencer Turnbull has been completely burned to a crisp and it's evaporated into thin air. I'll just leave it at that. So yeah, there we go. I'm sorry, Ty. It's just some of the things that I heard about that. So anyway, but yeah, there's a couple. Like I said, I think there's going to be the if Bregman signs, then everything else should hopefully just a matter of now when it's going to happen.
What do you think Jack Flaherty does for that rotation and more importantly, what's it do for the bullpen? Basically, the pitching staff as a whole. I mean, how would that shake things up from how it's currently lined up?
Well, here's the thing.
We assume it's lined up as.
Anyway. Well, if we assume, okay, so I think it gives them another option you give them a rotation. I mean, look at Arizona, for example. Arizona is like, you know what, we'll stack 7 deep. It's cool.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I like Arizona because going after Corbin Burns, it wasn't expected, and it gives them a fighting chance against LA. Now you have him, Zach Gallen, Erod. I mean, Erod is Erod, whatever. With that, but you still have those guys. That's still a pretty good rotation. It allows them to compete, and it gives them enough ability to, if Jack Flaherty is looking for a 5-year deal, well then the Tigers might be out on that. But no, as soon as Rosaki or why am I drawing blank? Sasaki? No, there's nothing been reported as of yet about that either. He's just taking offers right now.
And as Chris has said before, he can't sign until the 15th.
Yeah.
I mean, They could announce the agreement if they want to, but they can also negotiate right till the 15th.
Yeah. So, no, and like I said, I think here's what Flaherty does to your rotation. It gives the option of if you can want to put Mize out of the bullpen. I think if Mize is split, when Mize is splitter's right, it's right as rain. But I think he's a guy who struggles through the third time through the order. So I think that you could allow some greater flexibility. And then, of course, where's Matt Manning fit in all this? I don't know. But it just gives you a little more depth of starter. And again, even in the American League right now, where the American League is kind of down to a certain extent, Baltimore really hasn't done much. The Yankees are spending. Boston's gotten better. But you look at your division, what have the Twins have done? White Sox have, fringe players, but their farm system's slightly better after that Boston trade, but they're still going to be working on things. Cleveland, they're the class of division, but again, Cleveland's they're not going to spend to be competitive. That's what Cleveland doesn't do. And I think the Tigers I will still stand by this. Tigers are trying to resemble Cleveland in some ways by not spending.
Very possible.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. We'll go back to Flaherty real quick and adding pitching. I'm always going to internally fight the idea or the tendency to think that what we saw Detroit do the last 2 months last year is something easy to replicate, right? We saw a run of baseball you don't see very often. So what I'm about to say, I take that with a bit of a grain of salt. What they did, of course, last year was they pitched their asses off to the point where they didn't need to score a hell of a lot of runs to win games down the stretch. So they could try to, if they can't get Bregman and they don't feel comfortable with the fit of Santander, they could bring back Flaherty and just try to rerun what they just did by having a young, hopefully developing offense, but a pitching staff with a lot of depth that AJ Hinch and Chris Fetter can work magic with and use in 100 different ways and create the pitching chaos. Can they do that for 162 games though is the question.
Now, gentlemen, what about Yohan Moncada? Somebody brought up in the chat.
I'm going to pass on him. I've heard he's got a bit of an ego issue. Not a great teammate. I don't know if that's changed over the years, but that was certainly the case a few years ago when with the White Sox, and I'm sure that hasn't helped their clubhouse chemistry that they've struggled with for years. So,
yeah, and that's the reason why you don't sign Trevor Bauer, among other reasons.
In terms of Moncada, do you think he's getting a major league deal or a split deal, minor league deal?
I think he might get a split deal, kind of a prove it deal.
Yeah.
Because I think he is too much of a liability at third. Defensively, there's a lot of times where it's just a simple routine play and it's just boot.
If you can get him on a minor league deal and you can park him in Toledo and see what he does, I don't care. That's fine. But yeah, if the thought is that he's coming in and he's going to be your new Gio Urshela, I wouldn't count on that,
Yeah.
So, I guess that's how I would break that one down. If it's a split deal with a minor league option, that's great, but otherwise, no.
Here's what Keith said here. He said, speaking of Matt Manning, you have to think that if and when the Tigers get Bregman, are they going to make a trade? You like to think so. That, to me, is the most logical thing that would make sense, right? Because what are you going to do with these glutton players? Considering that you have Hayu Lee and Kevin McGonigal right around the corner. You can only, I mean, are you really with Young and Torkelson? I'm just saying Young as an example. I mean, they could trade anybody. They could trade Cole. No, not gonna trade Cole. But my point is that I'm using Young here because it just seems like he's the most likely to be if that was the case. Logically, it all lines up, right? I mean, am I off base here by suggesting that, or do you think they have enough room to make this work? Go ahead.
I think a Young and Manning package, whether it's more, has always made sense to me as a move this offseason. Those are two guys that are pretty much on the outside edge, but have talent. Like Matt Manning's career numbers aren't bad. He's not, his peripherals don't look amazing, but he gets outs. I don't know. He's one of those guys that just manages to do that. And then, I mean, you've got like so many guys currently in the rotation. I mean, Brant Herter was amazing last year. His numbers look great. Matt Manning's just not going to see any time. You've got to find something to do with him.
Yeah, no. And you know what, Griff, you make a great point about Brant Herter because in terms of his swing and miss stuff too, like his whiff rate and was outstanding. And I'm just trying to remember I think it was a slider. He has like a sweeping slider as far as like, I mean, he just was below the league average in K rate at 21%. However, you know, with this sweeper, he's getting a whiff rate of 37% on that. And that's a pitch form that better teams only hit 184 against. So to me, I like him using him a lot. And then you have, nobody forgets about Kyler Montero. Montero threw the only Tiger to throw a complete game last year. And he threw a Maddox out of all things. A rare thing. And he's probably out of all the young pitchers the most likely to be a workhorse. But Keith is correct. I think they've been involved with the Cardinals. There's been, you know, about maybe Steve Matz, which I don't like that idea too much because Matz is too injury ridden, at least in my opinion.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of Eric. Is it Eric Fettel?
Fetty?
Fetty. Yeah, Eric Fetty. I like that idea a lot too. I'm still, you know, but yeah, it's terms of even like, even outside the box here, what Ty Cobb was mentioning, trade for a third base prospect that's blocked, like Kobe Mayo, Matt Shaw, Cam Smith. Look, if the Tigers got Cam Smith,
yeah, whatever it takes, within reason.
Yeah, Cam Smith was. I love Cam Smith. I absolutely love Cam Smith. It is, you know, he's a guy who Houston got for a reason because he was a guy I wanted the Tigers to draft really bad. He is a good hitter, but that's not happening. But same thing. Cubs fans are like, no, you're not getting Matt Shaw. Stan, I know the Fangraphs has Montero at Toledo, but I take Fangraphs with a grain of salt and that kind of stuff sometimes because I think that they're not seeing a team every day. So I don't know. I think Montero makes a rotation out of spring. To me, if he just keeps the ball down, he's fine. He was a really good pitch. I think I don't know. I personally think he makes the team out of spring. That's just me. But so yeah, then Goldschmidt signed with the Yankees, shaved, and he looked like an IT guy today. I saw him on an interview. I didn't recognize him. Did you guys recognize him at all? I didn't recognize Goldschmidt at all.
I didn't see that.
It was weird.
Yeah, it was weird. Yeah, Yooper, let me pull up a shot.
That's right, the no beard rule, I suppose.
Yeah, which is I think is a stupid rule. Meanwhile, Gleyber Torres pulls a beard off and looks pretty awesome. But yeah, here's Goldschmidt here. Just kind of looks like a dude. Like it's just
wow, yeah.
I haven't recognized him.
That is different guy. And I didn't know he was bald either, so he always has a hat on when we see him.
Yeah.
But yeah. It's interesting that the union allows the Yankees to have that rule and that it lasts. I don't know how that's even enters into any union talk, but maybe the players just don't care enough.
Yeah, it totally look different. Mike, that's a good question. You want to know if Jackson Jobe's making a rotation? He should be making a rotation. He should. I mean, I think there's what Brandon Day has said this. Chris has said this, and I'm sure you guys have thought this. You don't waste bullets. There's no reason to waste bullets. I think Jobe might start the year in Toledo. It just depends on what they plan on doing, how they're going to bring out a slider. Because you guys remember, he didn't throw that slider that much when he got called up. and I think it was by design. So I really think that it's going to be. I think that's going to be the one out of all the things for spring training that comes up. To me, the most exciting is the pitching rotation. The rotation battle is going to be my favorite because I think there's so many storylines. Josh said that Goldsmith looks like Joe Mauer.
Yeah,
that's a good one right there. But yeah, so I don't know, Griff, do you think Joe makes a rotation out of spring?
I think he should. I mean, I think they want him to. I think unless he comes out in spring and really doesn't look good, he's going to be in the rotation. I'm more curious about where Ty Madden starts the year. Is he going to be a reliever? I wonder if they made him a reliever, could he get a slight uptick in velocity, maybe touch near 100, all of a sudden become pretty dangerous out of the pen?
Yeah, that's a great call. I think Madden has the ability to. I mean, he does have the ability to dial it up. He's throwing 98, 99, and his biggest obstacle he overcame last year was getting out lefties. Consistently, no, but I mean, I think he's a guy who I think is a guy you could put as a potential swing man, like a 2 or 3 inning reliever. Let him air it out a little bit because he has really good swing and miss stuff. And he can locate the fastball on the top of the zone, mix it in there with his a pretty power slider to me. So I think that if the Tigers can't get a swing and miss guy, maybe they try to do that with Ty Madden, make him into a bullpen weapon like that, like they did with Alex Lang.
Risky.
Yeah, Risky. Alex Faedo. I mean, Alex Lang was a starter in the minors before he became a reliever. So it's one of those things where, it's just one of those things where, as far as like somebody mentioned Trevor Bauer, let me just put it this way. No, it's just, he has nothing left in the tank. If he had any semblance of left in the tank, he might have been on a team, but it's just, he's also a dick. And the Tigers are trying to have a good clubhouse presence, everything, and Trevor Bauer's not it. So, and being around the clubhouse. Go ahead.
He's at that point, too, now that he's so radioactive. Everything he utters would dominate the team press.
Yeah.
For that rest of that day, the rest of that series. Every town he's in, some reporter's going to ask him something. He's going to say something a little outrageous. He's going to do something weird, like throw the ball in the stands. It's always kind of about him, and I can't see Hinch wanting to sign up for that.
Yeah.
If he was worth having on a team, he would be on a team. That's the way I view it. I mean, one of 30 GMs would take a shot on him if he was worth having around, and he's not.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, let's just move on from him in general, and let's kind of wrap it up a little bit with as far as any questions on the rotation or anything like that. If you want to leave a question on the chat, I do like this right here, the rotation right here. Scooble, Joe, Flaherty, Olsen, Cobb. That's actually a pretty. I could see that rotation starting the year.
Sure.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. Service time with Joe, right? I mean, what did he have, like 3 days with the team before the season ended?
Yeah. It was. Yeah.
Maybe a week.
Yeah, maybe a week. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So I don't know how that plays into service time. I know a lot of people hate the service time talk, and they want to say, well, if he should be on the team, he should be there on opening day. I don't agree with that. The rules are what the rules are. If the Tigers can keep him down for 10 days, they should do that. Right? I'd rather keep him around for that extra year if they can do it. But if that little bit of time that he was in the big leagues last year, if that affects, if it doesn't matter anymore, service time wise, then I would have him. I would think he'll be there opening day. But if they can save a year on the back end, then I would definitely not bring him up till the middle of April.
Yeah, I mean, it's rookie of the year. He mentions a rookie of the year candidate.
I know. You can't count on that, though. I mean, that's half the time the rookie of the year is won by a guy having an amazing first 2 months. Some random dude. I mean, and that carries the narrative for the summer. So I would rather have an extra year of Jackson Jobe.
Somebody actually mentioned JV. Nick just messaged me about JV as a possibility. Or Max Scherzer is also a free agent. I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where it's I will look at Larry said here though. He's like, "Oh, Cobb make it until May 1st without injury." Based off history, I'm just saying. But either way, the free agent market is still very, very. I don't want to say it's coming to a close, but it is. Hopefully, in the next week or the next day or so, we'll find out what Bregman's decision is, whether he's a Tiger or not. But we'll see what happens here. I mean, I don't know. Like all right, if we're gonna end the podcast here, let's say here. What say you, Griff? Is he a Tiger by Monday?
I don't think so. I think it's going to be towards the end of January. As much as I would love for it to be tomorrow, it sounds like Stephen Hagan said, it doesn't sound like they're that close. I think more teams are going to start to jump in the mix, and I think they're going to drag it on through the rest of the month.
Yooper?
Scott Boras is not afraid. He's not going to be bullied into a deal. He had a bad year last year by most accounts with some of the guys, but none of those guys are Alex Bregman, right? I think that odds are they will take this as long as Bregman can stand holding off. They'll try to get to the best deal. So I don't think it'll be anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you guys on this. I think that there was at one point a decision that probably came close, and then Scott Boras doing his magic and was just like, hold out for a better deal. And I mentioned this on Twitter. This reminds me of the Maglio are doing a sweepstakes. Although the Tigers were so the Tigers were apparently the only team, but the Mets were also interested in Maglio. How much interest back then, we'll never know. But he didn't sign until late January, early February. Again, the circumstances were different because he was coming off a questionable knee surgery, because this knee surgery was in Europe, some secrecy behind it, and people were worried that some voodoo magic or whatever was going on over there. But I think Scott Boras and you guys, you said this correctly. Scott Boras, you remember last year with the two pitchers. I think it was Jordan Montgomery and with Blake Snell.
Yeah,
that whole thing was he this year he's not going to be fooled again. And we don't know if it's the Tigers or it's Scott Boras or whatever the case is. But right now, as it stands, I'm going to make this prediction. I think it. You know what? I will venture to guess it gets done in the next 2 weeks. That's what I think. I think that there's going to be some sort of compromise too, because I think they have to, especially with the spring training just around the corner. I know that you really have to start kind of getting this stuff done. So
how big a role do you believe the relationship with AJ Hinch and Bregman is? Well, how is that a major factor in this decision, or is it really all years and money? Which is fine if it is. I don't blame you. I mean, it's Alex Bregman's life. So
I think it plays a little bit of a factor. I would almost argue Chris Chinea, is that how you pronounce his last name? The bullpen catcher. I almost think that matters just as much. They were college roommates and played together at LSU, together with Alex Lang. Like, I almost feel like being there with your friend, could be a big factor as much as, playing for your old coach. Because Alex Cora is over at Boston, so he's an old coach for him as well. So,
yeah, I think that, Joey Cora also, Joey Cora also plays a factor with this. I mean, he really did a good job with getting Gleyber Torres over here, and they've been working together for a while, for a few weeks, and it was something that he mentioned on the call. So I think that the relationships go deep, and it does help with that. Bryce Rayner is another shortstop prospect. There was a trade room. There was some ridiculous trade idea of the Cubs. Some idiot posted on Bleacher Report, the Cubs should get Bryce Rayner for the
Say Suzuki.
Suzuki. Get out of here. Go
Yeah,
smoke.
go away.
Smoke another bowl, man. What the hell is wrong with you? But so everybody, okay. So it seems here that Stan says Bregman will not sign the Tigers and all about the money. Gut feeling, Sam says is that the Bregman's going to the Jays, and my sources say they're the trash can buddies. So
Very good.
yeah, very good, very good. It's just look, I will smoke a bowl all day long, but not for making stupid trade ideas. Bleacher Report, come on, do better. If you can make a trade offer, make it a little somewhat realistic. I mean, I know tomato. It's just come on.
They'll probably see what Bryce Rayner can do in low A ball before they trade him. That's just saying.
Yeah.
Now, I will say I don't want to trade Rayner for him, but I would like say a Suzuki. I would prefer him to Anthony Santander personally.
I would as well. Better defender, and I think he would take advantage of the dimensions of Comerica Park. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I really think so. Yeah, that would be. Yeah, but not for Rayner. No, God no.
Yeah.
You'd trade for anything else, but
yeah.
No. Jeez.
I'd go the other way on that only because long held belief. Team ball go far, team go far. They've been aching for more power on this team for half a decade or more. So I would take Santander over that guy, but I understand more versatile player, no question about it.
R1 versus J4. I think you all know more about this Bregman thing than you all can tell. Surprise stream, eh? Well, I'll just say this. Yeah. Inside sources are telling me that Chris is watching Batman Forever in theaters at 30th anniversary special. Based off the lack of activity, the Tigers are doing something because I just can't go into what, but there's a certain we were supposed to talk to somebody in the front office, and they're working on things. So that's all I can tell you right now, and they'll be on the minor league report side of things. So we'll see what happens. Again, the Tigers. I think the Tigers are going to do something. Whether it's just, I think my prediction's 2 weeks. You guys say the end of the month, and I like that. So we'll see what happens. But just for now, do yourself a favor, get off Twitter, and just relax. Because I mean, if you're checking Twitter every 5 seconds and getting anxiety about it, it's fine. Life goes on. There's plenty of things going on right now. I think the Tigers are going to do something too. Remember the rumors of the new uniforms?
No, I don't remember this.
I don't remember that either. Yeah,
I'm all for it though. Do it.
As long as they're cool.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. Griff, thanks so much for subbing in tonight, and really appreciate it. I look forward to having you on a little more often here in the new year. And where can everybody find you on social media?
Yeah, I'm pretty much at Deep to Center on every platform. So, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, all that stuff.
All right. Awesome. Yeah, that is a sick hat. That's seriously a sick
Thank
hat.
you.
So yeah, it is, that is up there with the Hall of Fame hats here we have already. So yeah, Tigers have been doing things. You're absolutely right. But Sam, you know what? I got to tell you though, I spent my whole vacation. I did not go on my computer outside of doing a podcast. I didn't do any work. I did 2 articles, but that was different because that's article related. And I drank a lot of wine. And I don't drink a lot of wine normally. And it was awesome. And I was off Twitter for a little bit, and I got to talk to some people. So yeah, I'm excited for the new year. Happy New Year to everybody. I appreciate everybody checking things out. TigersMLReport.com. We just did an announcement. Go to our YouTube channel. We're going to be changing up a few things, and Chris and I are going to go into that. Larry, we'll be at spring training. We're just hammering out the details right now. I think Chris will be at spring training for the first time ever. Now that he is a baseball writer, now he's part of the Detroit Baseball Writers Association. Chris can go to game or spring train now, so looking forward to that. And there's gonna be more of an announcement on what we're doing for Tigers Download Report in the next couple of weeks or so. As we'll look forward to giving you daily content. I mean, every day between Tiger minor league recaps, big league recaps, and more. So, and then Griff is going to be hopefully helping us out on this side of things here on the Motor City Metrics side of things. as I love his style. Like, he can host a show, and it's always nice when you can have another host on in the midst. So stay classy, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. Have a good night, everybody. And if the Tigers do something, you know what's going to happen. Sam, yeah, we'll you know what, for now,
red siren.
Yeah. We'll have the siren ready, but Sam, yes, that's the best way to contribute right now. And then the paywall thing will, like I said, there will be more details on that. So, cop got dentures. All right, we're out of here. Thanks so much.